Okay.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. And today, as my special guest, we have none other than a former WWE manager of World Tag Team Champions Deuce and Domino. And she was also a wrestler herself, none other than Cherry. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
Yes, same to you. How have your holidays been so far?
Quiet, which I love. So I'm happy about that. How about you?
The same, just spending time with my dog and family. So
Oh, me too. Mine's sitting right here.
mine's in bed.
Oh, sweet. What kind of dog do you have?
Miniature poodle.
Very cute. I love all kinds of dogs.
So, were you a wrestling fan before you became a wrestler?
Yeah, my brother, I always credit my brother for getting me to be a fan. He hogged the Saturday morning TV. So we watched wrestling on Saturday mornings and was really annoyed at first, but then got enamored. It's so interesting, because at first you're like, what is going on here? So, yeah, I mean, when I was little, I got involved in it, and my brother fell off from watching it eventually, but it can, of course, supported me when I got older. So when I did venture into that realm, but yeah, I always was a wrestling fan.
Was there any in particular wrestlers that you enjoyed watching or looked up to?
Oh my gosh, Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat are my all-time favorite. Just that feud was what really caught me and bit me to fall in love with it. They just, I mean, who doesn't have Randy Savage at the top of their list, right? Just charismatic, athletic, interesting, energetic, like everything about him, you want to watch. So, all-time favorite, that feud was really what got me hooked. And who doesn't think WrestleMania three's match was just one of the best, if not the best of all time? So those were my first.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for that. I think I might have be a little bit younger than you, but it was WrestleMania 5 that got me with Randy and Hogan and the whole Elizabeth stuff, which I know you were a big fan of Elizabeth. I heard you talking about her. Any thoughts on her to share? It's amazing she's still not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because of her family. I've had contact with some of the fans that have been close to the family, and I think her mom was pretty hurt by the whole situation and just had an opinion of it. So I think that she's been kept out because she was really the executor of her estate, from what I know. And they didn't want her to be involved or recognized, which is sad because us fans really feel like she deserves that recognition. But from what I know is her mom has passed and her brother's kind of in charge of that and he's all for it. So, I'm politicking to help that progress. I don't know if that would, be anything that would be something I could pull off, but the powers that be need to know that it's time. And, you know, there's other, situations in which there are people in the Hall of Fame for questionable backgrounds, but they're still part of our industry. They're part of our history, and we want to recognize them for that. So she was a big influence on me. She was a big influence on me creating the Cherry character and kind of the characteristics that she had. And I really pay a lot to her for that, and I'm blessed to be able to have certain parts of Cherry be part of her because she was so iconic. And the dynamic of me and the boys, when was the last time that you had heels with a baby face manager? And that kind of was really where it came off of, and that hadn't been done since then, to my recognition, to such level. So we were very blessed to be able to do that. And I was very blessed because I took a lot of the creativity and maybe storylines or ideas from the things that she did in her storylines in the industry too. So she had a big impact on myself, so of course, and lots of people. So yeah.
I remember when she flipped up her skirt at that SummerSlam '88, I think, and that was the most that any woman wrestler had ever showed at that point. And it's amazing where it's gone to since then. But is there any favorite moment that you have of Miss Elizabeth?
I just think that whole turmoil between, Savage and Hogan, where she was really intricate in fueling that storyline. And it's not like it is that like back in the day that you really watched and they drew out storylines. So like that love story really kind of pulled people in. Now it's just like you're lucky if a storyline goes a month long. I think that was the formula that really got a lot of people just involved in it, and she was intricate in that, as far as where she finally you know jumped in front of Honky so he didn't take him out, and they kind of turned baby at that time. And you wanted to see that evolve to where like he actually appreciated her for what she did. And then because then before that she wasn't really involved. She wasn't a pull the leg kind of manager. She wasn't like a Sherry Martel who kind of got involved. She was just kind of demure and just didn't really do much. But then when she was able to get involved in it, was little bit, less is more. She started to get involved with that feud. So just being able to see her impact it in such a small but yet impactful way was great. Less is really, really, truly more. So she did that.
And then, of course, WrestleMania 7, she had the whole crowd in tears when she came out at the end of Macho Man Warrior.
Uh,
And
yeah. We all forgot. We're like, oh my gosh, is she ever going to come back? Right. And that was like epic. Nobody ever thought. Like, it's not like now where information gets leaked and, you hear things about like who's coming or who's going to be involved, or, these sneak attacks. And that's kind of why we love the Rumble so much, right? We want to see, these people that kind of sneak up on us. And I think the most epic return, so it's epic returns, right? It's the Hardy Boys at WrestleMania. Nobody ever thought that was going to happen. That Secret of Hell so much. It's like when she came out at that time and, they reunited, was just, you never thought she was coming back. You didn't really hear the stories at the back then. You couldn't get the inside scoop. So it was really shocking and exciting at the same time.
yeah, I can't remember another time when the whole crowd cried like that. But speaking of Royal Rumble returns, I hear that you'd be open to that if that was ever presented to you.
Oh my gosh, yes. Who wouldn't be? That whole thing is exciting, because we all loved watching the men and who, gosh, could have been in there. And, I was excited. I was living with Beth at the time when she was in the Rumble, and she told me, and we kept it confident. And, to see that's so exciting, and that excitement for all the fans too. And now that we have the women being able to do a Rumble as well, like it's double the amount of excitement. Who could they bring back? And it's always good to see that. I mean, right now with the way the industry is and kind of all of these people that are no longer in with the company coming back, you get little sprinkles of that now. But there's such a pool of women that can be able to be involved, and that surprise factor is really what makes that super special. So yeah, of course, I'd be totally down for it.
Well, I hope that happens one of these days. I remember actually being with Molina at a Royal Rumble, I think 2019, because there was an autograph session, having dinner with her and some other wrestlers. And she was kind of sad she wasn't even invited to the Royal Rumble that year. Then last year, she was actually in the Royal Rumble. So you never know when it can happen.
And how do you not ask Molina? She's impressionable. She's incredible. Just everything about her was great then and now. I think because they have so many girls employed on the main roster on an NXT, they'll probably have a few and far between that are no longer with the company. But it's always good to have that open mind to be able to be there. So who knows?
So you aren't like a lot of the divas from your time frame where many of them were just signed without being wrestlers first. I understand you actually were on the independent scene a little bit and in OVW without a contract. Could you tell us how you got into wrestling as an independent wrestler first, then the OVW thing?
Sure. So I never really knew how to become a wrestler. It wasn't like, oh, that's what I want to do. I thought that there was a way in. I never really thought about it, to be honest. I loved it. I thought that would be great to do, but didn't live in an area that kind of had that education to be able to know, like, you go to a wrestling school or how you get involved. You hear those stories now, but so I just watched wrestling. I was a fan, and I was working at a cellular wholesaler, and I made friends with one of the girls there, and her uncle was an independent promoter, and I just started talking wrestling one day, and she's like, "You really know a lot about wrestling?" I was like, "Yeah, I watched it forever." And she's like, "You have to talk to my uncle. He's an independent promoter." And I was like, "Well, what's that?" So we started talking on the phone, and he's like, "Wow, for a girl, you really do know a lot about wrestling and watching it forever." So it's all life, right? You network. So I was networking with him. He's like, "Come to my wrestling show." Went to the wrestling show just to watch. And then, over time we would just start talking about like Raw or whatever. And he's like, "Well, go to my wrestling show." And it turned into me like bringing the jackets back. And then it turned me into playing possibly a manager. And, over time, I just started to kind of get involved in the independent scene and meeting people. And then I met, let's see. So Carmine Sabia was with no, Stars and Stripes Championship Wrestling, I think it was at the time. And then I met a few independent wrestlers, Donnie B, Kevin Knight, AJ Sparks, Bobcat. If you remember Bobcat, she was one of the hardcore hoes that got the hardcore title. She was part of the hoe train. Became friends with them, and also Judas Young, who we ended up dating over, over a period of time. So they would all network with me, and we would go to wrestling shows. And Bobcat really kind of helped me learn a little bit about like the women's side of it. And so I started networking, meeting friends, met Julio De Niro at one of these shows, where he really kind of put me under his wing, and we did a lot more shows. We would go down to Maryland and Delaware and Connecticut. And I worked better against Judas Young, who was my boyfriend at the time, than with him, and he had a completely different gimmick than I did. So just kind of weekend warriored it, and got a lot of recognition and got out there. And at the time, it's not like it is now. I was just on Mickey and Victoria and SoCal Val's Got TV the other couple weeks ago, which they're great gals. And when Mickey and I were like, I'd wrestle her or work against her a lot at the time. There weren't like they are now, where there's a lot of girls involved on the independents and stuff like that. So I made friends with a lot of people. And then my boyfriend, Judas Young's best friend, Danny Inferno, who I actually managed, moved to Kentucky at OVW to try to get a contract as well. So that's kind of what people did a lot, like left their lives, went to Kentucky. So he was already there, and he contacted us, and he said, "Hey, OVW at the time, the developmental territory, but also their own wrestling school, was doing a training camp." He's like, "You should apply." So Judas had some knee and shoulder surgeries, so he couldn't go. And I was like, I'm going to send an application. I'm not going to be accepted, like whatever. Well, they accept me. And I was like, oh my God. So then I was like, all right, well, I go away every weekend for wrestling shows. Like, what's the big deal? I'll do this. So I go, and it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They put you up in like the Econo Lodge, and then you wrestle during the day, and then you're obviously off at night. So there was I don't know how many people, I don't feel it, maybe it was like 50 people, and I was one of two girls. So, and I knew a few people from the people that got accepted. So Pat Buck, he wrestled as Roostar. I knew him. And then Mario Baccara, Damian Adams. Damian Adams and I actually wrestled at the wrestling school in New Jersey. So he trained me a lot before I got to OVW. So do shows with him as well. So he did a lot of coaching me, and we would work out and stuff like that. So I did the weekend. I'm just kind of fast forwarding, but I did the weekend, and the I don't know what happened to the other girl. I think she like went and hid in the bathroom. It was super bizarre. So it kind of put a spotlight on me, and it was like incredible to like, people didn't know that I could wrestle. Or had been wrestling, I should say. So yeah, did the weekend and went home and went back to my real life job and just called Danny Davis. Like after I got home, I said, "Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a really fun time. I really enjoyed it." And he just said, "Hey, we think that there's a lot of potential in you. We would like to invite you to come to OVW." But he made it very clear it was OVW. They had their own school, they had their beginners, intermediate. It just happened to be a developmental territory for WWE. So the contracted people were there and they did a TV show on Wednesdays. So just kind of started out like that and something, I mean, I was in a job where I loved it. I was making really good money. I had 401k. Like I really threw my what is that term? Like you throw your dreams to the wind or whatever, and just kind of was like, something's telling me to go. So, and I was living with Judas at the time and moved to Kentucky, and he stayed home because he still had injuries that he was, working on, and went from a job that was secure to waitressing during the day, wrestling practice at night, or if not a wrestling show, and weekend warrior, a warrior, you know what I mean, um, on the weekends for OVW. And, again, networked while I was down there and got myself on their TV shows. And you just, you bust your butt. And, a lot of people kind of did that at the time. Like Beth did it, Nick Dinsmore did it. Everybody kind of like threw the sheet to the wind, I guess the term is. So, got down there, and I already knew Jimmy because Jimmy and I started in ECPW in New Jersey training. He would come at a different time that I was there, but he would come with his dad and train with his dad. But I would work independent shows with him. So I knew him, we knew each other, and knew a lot of other people that were already down there. So that's life. Network. When you network, that's the best part of life and work experience that you need, no matter what industry you're in. So yeah, and that's kind of how I got involved in at least getting to OVW. So that's my story in a quick nutshell.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know that Jimmy was actually Jimmy Snuka's son, right?
Yeah.
But they never really put that over on TV for some reason.
Yeah. Well, he always wanted to build his own fame and separate himself from that. Of course, he loved his dad dearly. And his dad, helped us a lot and talked to us a lot, and what a great human being. But Jimmy was always about trying to build his own career path, which is remarkable. And he did a great job, and he was a great wrestler. And, so yeah, we never really, other than the vengeance that we did with that match, it was never recognition. I don't think recollection, I should say, is I don't think they on Vengeance talk about him being the dad. I don't remember. I just know that
Perhaps they could have. I don't
yeah,
know if I saw that one.
I don't think, well, it was Deuce and Domino against Slaughter and Snuka at Vengeance, and then Tony Gurria and Rick Martel jumped yeah, so I don't think they did connect the two, but who didn't know, right? Let's just say that.
Yeah, because with the daughter, it seemed like they pushed it a lot heavier, and she's had a very
Yes.
long career there. I think she's
Yes.
still with them at this time.
But Deuce also had a different character. So she's definitely, that generational and worked off of that. He just had it, we had a different thing going. So it wouldn't have made sense to bring that up anyway. So, made it easier to not connect the two, but who didn't know?
Were you at OVW during that whole Santino incident, or was that before your time?
That was literally like a week before I got there.
Oh,
So I heard, and I'm like, what? Wait, what? Like people were just kind of like talking about it like privately, and I'm like, I don't really know what's going on. And I had heard people like whispering, and so I was like, wait, what is everybody talking about? So Inferno kind of told me what happened, and I wasn't there. I think it was the TV before I got there, or two TVs before I got there. So yeah, they told me it was a mess. Santino's incredible though. He's such a little sweetheart. Like he would never do anything to hurt anybody. I don't know how it got so out of hand, but of course I wasn't there. So, yeah, it
Oh,
was
his
totally.
daughter's a diva. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yes, I am. I know, and she got hurt. So she's a gorgeous little girl. I remember meeting her down there.
Oh, that's pretty cool. What do you think about now with NXT? I don't think you could do what you did as a non-contract person, go and train, but I think it's easier to get signed now in some ways. But if you want to kind of drop everything and show that you're willing to give it all up for a shot at WWE, you can't do that anymore, really.
It's definitely not the path that I took. The PC, to what I know, I've never been there, is pretty epic. And but if you hone your craft and you make a name for yourself, you get recognition. They have a lot of people out there with eyes looking for the next talent and stuff like that. So I think that you just have to, you don't have it as the same road that I did now, but um it's definitely out there more. I think wrestling is definitely on the forefront where just hone your craft and you just need to get noticed and make a name for yourself. So it's not like walking in the door like I did. So but that PC is pretty incredible. They put a lot into that, and just the NXT product, and it's a much bigger scale of OVW. I mean, our TVs were just as incredible. They obviously have, Full Sail University, like film people and students kind of involved in that and have a great product. But I just think it's a bigger scale than what OVW does. We had a great programming. Danny Davis, Al Snow, Rip Rogers all did fantastic with that programming. It was just that time. So I'm happy to see it evolve. Gives you a little bit more perspective, which is great because you need that practice area, which is great for us. You need that practice area to hone your craft, to hone your character, to get an idea of what hard camera is and where to position yourself, and entrances and things like that. You do need that rather than being thrown to the wolves on live TV. So, it's a great concept, which of course has clearly worked very well.
And I understand you had kind of a unique way of getting signed too that wouldn't happen today. Deuce and Domino were already signed and they were looking
Domino
for.
actually wasn't.
Oh, no, he
Jim,
wasn't either.
Jimmy
Okay,
said
well, I'll let you
no.
tell the story then of how it all worked.
Yeah. So I was doing the TVs and I ended up getting to be the ring girl. So I would take the jackets or whatever, like behind the announcer's table. So I wasn't really an intricate role, but I would take the jackets, hand the microphone, whatever they needed. So Jimmy had approached me because we knew each other, and they had been Domino and Deuce had been working on this greasers gimmick. I don't know Domino's deal, but he wasn't signed, but he was in the contracted class. So they were working on this greasers gimmick, and Domino had come up with the idea of a girl on roller skates. So they kind of, from what they told me, as they scanned the OVW school, and Jimmy kind of, politicked for me to be asked because he knew my work ethic. He knew me from the indies. So they approached me with this idea after a TV taping, and they said, after the show, we'll go in and you can see the promos we've been working on, because contracted class would have practice days, but then they would have promo days and, get ready for TV and all this stuff. So I was able to see their promos and what they were working on and kind of how their shtick was, right? So Jimmy had told me that the office, John Laurinaitis and his, Ted DiBiase, Krista Joseph, Ed Koski, all those guys were coming down Tuesday, which they did over time to evaluate the talent, to see, are they going to bring somebody up? How are they doing? Whatever. So he says, we want you to kind of get this together. We don't know what her name is. We don't know what she looks like. We just want her on old school roller skates. And I'm like, oh gosh, So, fast forward is I have this, week to get us together. And so this was Wednesday after TV, and they were coming down Tuesday. So all week I'd still gone to work. I'd still gone to wrestling practices. I went to the wrestling shows. Sunday we meet up at OVW, and I show them kind of what I put together. So I'd gone to the mall and I kind of put this outfit together. So it was the pink button up with the little black skirt and the sequin belt, and put my hair in a ponytail with like a little bandana, like a handkerchief. And so we kind of, that Sunday, just kind of saw what I look like, chatted a little bit, played around with like promo ideas, and then came up with my name. And we had thought either Grease, Sandy from Grease, or Cherry from The Outsiders. Cherry's very wrestling-esque, right? So we went with Cherry. And then so Monday night, Jimmy calls me. He's like, hey, so Danny Davis said you can't come because only contracted people are allowed to go to this presentation for the office. He's like, but I'm gonna do everything I can, like just hang out, just wait for me, just be prepared. I'm gonna do everything I can, because we had kept it a secret that this was the deal, this gimmick we put together. We didn't tell anybody. I actually told Mickie James. She was the only one I told, but we had kept it a secret. So Tuesday, I'm bummed out. I'm just like waiting, and Jimmy calls me and he's like, get down here. So I'm like, oh my God. So I had all of my stuff ready and I rushed down to Davis Arena, and everybody's already there, right? So I run in the door and I go to open the backstage area to go to the girls' locker room to change. And I lock eyes with Rip Rogers, and I'm like, he's fuming out of his eyeballs, right? Because he's standing there with John Larnay, everybody, the office. And I'm like, oh my God, he thinks I'm late, right? He doesn't understand. And I want to be like, Rip, you don't understand. So he was pissed, and rightfully so. It looks bad. So I run into the locker room, change, and I roll out of the arena. And of course, Deuce and Domino are on the other freaking side of the arena. I hadn't roller skated since I was like a kid. So this is a week that I have these skates on, right? That I had just gotten the skates on. So I roll over and I'm yelling at Jimmy. I'm like, catch me. I couldn't even stop because it was concrete floor. So anyway, nobody knew. And then we did our spiel. We had a match. Everybody presented kind of like stuff. The office said, I want this person, that person, this person to wrestle, blah, 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 blah. Then we did promos. So we get online for promos, and Johnny goes up to Domino and was like, I want you guys next. Because it was a long day and there was a lot of us talent there. So we skip the line, go up. So Johnny and Danny and everybody goes into the office, in Danny's office, because then they can see how you look on TV. So we do our promos that we've been practicing or whatever. So they ended up cutting the day short. Not everybody got to present. And, they thank everybody, and, Ted DiBiase and Rick Rogers, everybody just kind of like gave us like a thank you and this, that, and the other thing. So then Johnny goes, Snuka, bring you and your team into the office. So I was like, oh my God. Like my body's like, I'm just like out of body at this point. Right. So he brings us in the office, and it's Cliff, me, and then Jimmy. And then of course, Johnny and Danny and Al are standing there. So Johnny's like, I love it. I love this gimmick. It's incredible. I want to sign you and you. And I didn't hear anything after that. I was just like, did this just happen? I'd only been in OVW for 4 months at that point. And I was like, this is incredible. And I did hear him go, and you even know how to wrestle. So Johnny Ace didn't even know I could wrestle. Excuse me. But Danny and Rip had said that I was in the in the intermediate class, and I had been on the independent. So Johnny was going to sign me not knowing I could wrestle or had been wrestling. So it was incredible. And so we leave the office, and of course everybody's kind of like, well, what happened, right? Because that just was bizarre. So we come out of the office. I'm like just in shock. And Jimmy and I are talking. He's like, listen, don't go crazy. We don't have contracts yet. Like Jimmy was signed. Me and Cliff weren't. So he's like, just don't go, tell everybody we don't have contracts. You never know. They could pull back the offer. Right. But right behind, so I'm facing Jimmy. Right behind him is Danny Inferno, who was the one that kind of encouraged me to apply to OVW. And I'm like, and his look on his face was just like, what, tell me. And I just, he's my boyfriend's best friend, and I had managed with him on the independents. And I was like, I have to tell Danny. And he's like, okay. And we just looked at each other. It was like, ah! And we just hugged for like the longest time. And, it was such a good feeling. So yeah, I mean, me and Cliff got signed that day. Cliff was not signed. So which is great. And it was a great gimmick, and I still love that gimmick, and there's so much that we had to offer on that. And it was just so different and so new and refreshing at the time. So yeah, it was incredible, and I'm so blessed and thankful. I mean, I was literally there for 4 months before I got signed. Beth was there for longer. Nick Dinsmore was there for long. A lot at Santino. So many people were there for so long, and I just am so blessed to have had that opportunity. And the boys, thought I could pull it off, and and then we made history, and we made our dreams come true.
That's a great story. And I know sometimes it can take like months for people to get their contracts, and the hiring process is usually 3 months or so, especially for international people, which you aren't. But because you already had a gimmick with a contracted guy, did that speed things up at all?
So Tuesday we got hired. Wednesday was the TV show, and Paul Heyman it was like one of his last TV shows that he was producing. So the office said, debut them immediately. And then Thursday, well, my boyfriend Judas was actually coming down for a visit. So I picked him up from the airport, and I got a FedEx with my contract. So I got it 2 days after I got signed, FedEx to me. So, yeah, so it was pretty quick. And to set the record, because I've been hearing a lot of stories, the office did not give us that gimmick. I'm hearing people saying that, the office came up with that gimmick. They didn't. It was completely 100% the boys and myself. They didn't give me my name. They didn't tell me to be on roller skates. It was 100% the three of us that came up with that. So I've heard some wild stories about how Deuce and Domino were at the roller rink with me and helping me like learn how to skate. No, they weren't. I did go to the roller rink to get more comfortable on my free time because I was going to get this job and keep this job. But they had their own, the most ridiculous stories now, which is so funny because I'm like, that's so far out left. It's not even true. But wrestling fans.
Now it seems like a lot of the time they change the NXT people's gimmicks when they go to WWE, but it seems like WWE wanted that gimmick before you even debuted for them. So was there like a WWE person at all involved with helping you guys along with that gimmick since they were interested in it?
No, not at all. We did everything. I came up with the design of my outfits. They came up with what they wanted to do and their shtick and their promo. I mean, when you get up there, they would write promos for us. Everything before that, and we would have input on it. Their whole the way they talked and the way they moved, and they gave us a car, but it was, I don't know how it is now. I do see what you mean. Like when people get from NXT, they change them once they get to WWE. I'm not really sure why that is because I feel like, or what I know is they do a lot of development down there. So if you're willing to work and get somebody's character to a certain level, with that developmental product that you have at the PC, which is pretty advanced, I'm not sure why they do change that. I know like Xia Li I loved her gimmick at NXT with that whole faction. And then all of a sudden, not that, she's not great as she is, but, I just thought that was interesting and never been done like that. So I know what you mean. We're on 100%. That was all us creativity.
Now, I heard you say in another podcast that they sent you guys to Deep South on an exchange for a few weeks. What was the difference between OVW and Deep South as far as the training and the atmosphere? Because you always hear the bizarre stories from Deep South.
Yeah, so that was Nova's idea, or should I say Simon Dean? um it was very different from the way Al taught. Al was all about preserving your bump card. We did work on calisthenics. We did work on putting together matches in psychology, but we did promo days. And, it's not about athletically bumping and working yourself to the bone. And I think that Deep South had a different regimen going on. So when we went there, it was great. Bill DeMott was great to us. Everybody was great. We had a good time. I just think that we had a different perspective and got to see a lot more that we weren't used to that. I met Natty and TJ there. So that was fun. But it was very different from our training. And Al was very big on, protecting your bodies because you want longevity. So that was really kind of what was important to him. Not to say that, Deep South training wasn't good. It was very good. It produced a lot of different people, but we had heard the stories and we were nervous about it too. So, but it ended up being good. We had a good time, and we got their tag titles and stuff like that. So, but Deep South was definitely pretty hard. I mean, I struggled with their workout routines, even though I had worked out and been in the best shape of my life. It was they were that routine they had was rough. Kudos to them.
Did you happen to be there with that thing with Zack Ryder, Luke Gallows that happened, or was that?
Yes.
Yep. Could you tell us that story?
Well, what story you mean? I mean, I know Zack Ryder and Luke Gallows were there.
I know they were there. Oh, maybe you didn't see it, but there was some incident involving donuts in those two. I don't know if you were there during that.
I heard, no, we weren't there when it happened, but I heard about that. Okay. Was that where like you do something with the donuts and they get out of practice?
Yeah.
Yes, I heard about it,
okay.
But I think it happened before we got there. So yeah, so Zack was there. Luke Gallows was there. Oleg was there. Kofi was there. Angelina Love was there. Mike Taylor was there and his wife. Kenny Omega was there. MVP. So many people. Yeah, they were all there when we were there. Jody Hamilton, of course, because he was the one that owned it. So, yeah, it was intense. Their training was intense. I give it to those guys. Kofi went through it when we were there. They put him through some vigorous. They would do this thing. Bill would do this thing where like everybody would be on there outside of the ring, and then he would pick one person to be in the ring, and everybody would just blow him up. So that was intense. And Kofi was the one that I saw do that, and he was incredible. Building up your stamina. Building up your wind. You can do as much cardio as you want all day, every day at the gym. There's no kind of ring training. Run those ropes. Do tackle drop downs. Al did that all the time with us. Make sure you keep your wind up. You can't train for wrestling training outside of the wrestling ring. It's just not possible.
What was the process like for getting called up to the main roster? And did they tell you any plans right away? As in, like, were you expecting to eventually get the titles, or were you just happy to be called up at that point?
Well, funny is when we got signed that Tuesday, they put us on the road that weekend, and they were going to debut us on Raw on Monday. Billy Graham had a book that just came out, and they were going to have us crash his like book announcement or party or whatever they were going to do, and they ended up scrapping it. So we got signed Tuesday, went on the road that weekend, which was great because we had really just got together for a week. So we went on the road, and then they kept us back in OVW, which was a blessing because we really needed to marinate with each other and our own gimmick and, ourselves and kind of get it together. So the Christian Joseph was really the one that kind of stayed in contact with us. He called me a lot, which is kind of Nova or Simon Dean says it a lot. Like they really treated me as a manager, which I was fine with because I like to know what's going on, and I like to be a planner, and and the boys were just kind of like living their lives and doing their thing. And they, at the time they were doing a lot more of this, they were wrestling. I wasn't. So I was completely fine playing the real manager role. So Christian Joseph just a year later had said, "Hey, we're going to debut you guys on SmackDown." And, called me while we were at a right before a show that we were doing for OVW, and, tell them this. And, so it wasn't other than debuting us. they didn't tell us anything future because things changed so quickly. They weren't like, oh, we're putting the titles on you a month in or whatever. It was just kind of like get the debut out of the way. So we had gone on the road, I think a week before. We did a Northeast loop. So we went to Nassau Coliseum and they had us do a dark match, which is because they wanted to get shots of us for the Titantron, for our entrance. So we did that. And then a week later, we debuted in Little Rock, Arkansas, January 19th, a year to the day that Cliff and I got signed, which was incredible. So we had the car, the Nassau Coliseum shot, we heard our music, which was very different from our OVW music. Our OVW music was, lively and fun and just out there. And this one was a lot slower. So we were like, is that us? Like, is that our entrance? We were thrown off by it, but we got into it. But, yeah, they didn't tell us initially, like, you're going to be feuding with London and Kendrick. They just debuted us. As we got up there, we started to do the house show loops and stuff. Then we started to do, then they started to give us the story that, we're going to work with London and Kendrick. So, but it wasn't ultimately, of course, we wanted to go for the title. So, but initially it was just get us debuted.
What do you think about all the controversy of Kendrick lately for something he said that it seems like he may have been stoned when he did that interview or something where he was talking about all this weird stuff and he was supposed to debut in AEW and he ended up getting canceled, I guess, sadly for him, because he seems like a nice guy.
Oh, I got along with Kendrick great. He was such a cool guy. I don't know what you're referring to, though. I didn't hear or see that.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything he was even serious about, but somebody like showed this old interview to Tony Khan and he canceled the whole thing and he left his WWE job, I guess, to join AEW for this. So it was bad luck for him. But I hear WWE used him as an agent at Survivor Series. So maybe a door is open for him again there. Is there any arena that stood out to you in WWE? You mentioned the Nassau Coliseum. That's one of the classic arenas. Is there any others that really was an honor for you to work in or a dream come true?
Oh, Madison Square Garden. That was awesome. It's a lot smaller than you think it is in the back. Locker rooms and just kind of walking around, a lot smaller. Parking is horrific because you have to park across the street and anybody can be in there. So the fans have access. And of course they know that wrestling's across the street at the Garden. So that was a nightmare. I'll tell you a story about Madison Square Garden. So I was traveling with Layla at one point and we were leaving the arena and they do kind of put up barriers for us to at least cross the street. But once you get on that side of the parking lot, we went to get in and of course we were bombarded. All the fans were right outside the parking garage. And, we were signing what we could, but we really needed to get out of there. It was getting to be like a lot because everybody had to park there. You couldn't park in the Garden. So we go to get in the elevator to go to our parking level and it opens up and closes and starts to close. And these three guys jump in with us and we're like, oh my God. Like, and they're just staring at us like super creepy. So, we go to get, as the door's shutting, our security guard, we just saw his hand and he grabs the guy and pushes the door open and drags them out of the elevator. It was so scary, but they just had our backs because they were just like, these fans were just like in our face like this. And I was like, me and Layla were like, oh my God. We didn't know who they were. So then we went down to the floor and our security guard somehow knew which floor. We didn't even tell them which floor we were on. And when we got the doors open from the elevator, the WWE security guards, are two big dudes. We're down there by where we ended up opening the door. So it's like so scary because wrestling fans are great, but they're, you don't know these people. So Madison Square Garden was great, but that parking situation was a nightmare.
I heard you say you were pretty good friends with CM Punk during your time in WWE. Could you talk a bit about your friendship with him and your thoughts on his current situation? I guess he has it pretty good now. He gets paid to sit at home, which is pretty good.
So Punk, I'm friends with Punk, and Punk is a unique character. So once you become friends with him, though, you are like gold. He will protect you. He will be there for you. I think he just, yeah, we traveled together actually. It was me, Punk, Miz, Deuce, Domino, Hornswoggle for a bit. So yeah, I mean, Punk's a great dude. I think that he has his own perspective on things. I don't know what happened with him in Cult. I don't understand the AEW thing. I hate that that even happened. None of us really know. Um, I think Punk has a lot to offer and is entertaining and was used as a top guy for a long time in WWE. And of course, I'm a friend, so I want to support that, and never really understood you know where he was coming from as far as not getting what he deserved. And I don't know. I'm conflicted because I don't know all the information. I just know my friend and I know he's a good person. He has a lot to offer. He has a great mind. He's really invested in the business and in himself, and he knows a lot about this business. Um, I hate to see a friend struggle like that, or I just don't want to speak on something I don't really know other than what we all see. I'm still friends with him. I don't talk to him often. I haven't talked to him in a while. When he did his MMA stuff, I had texted him and, showed my support, and he texted back. But I don't I don't have any information to speak on. I just know my friend. And I'd hate to see anybody in a terrible spot, especially when I know that he loves his business. But we can all get conflicted. You can love something so much but hate it at the same time because certain things happen. I mean, I got pretty bitter when like we couldn't do what we wanted to do. OVW, we had so much creativity. All four, five, six of us was able to do, give our input on creativity for our storylines. And, that was really important when you get to WWE. It's a bigger machine. So, I can only support my friend and wish him the best and wish it was different. Um, I hate that that happened because I feel like everybody involved has so much to offer. Like if you could just talk it out. I know when you get in an argument, everything's just on fire at first, right? You just need to step away, take a break, and hopefully they can get back together and, figure it out and talk it out. And most of these things are misunderstandings. And, you know, it would just be sad that that's not something he can contribute to anymore, because he is such a good dude. So I just support my friend.
Another guy I heard you say you were friends with is a guy that's doing great right now in the movies. I think he's going to be in the new Knives Out movie, and he's had a great career as Batista. What's he like in real life for the people that only see him as a wrestler?
Well, when I knew him, he was, oh, what a good dude. Like really, really good dude. He was like a big brother to me. He was so friendly and so nice and looked out for me. And I remember this one time, I was sitting with Mark Carano, Domino, and we were talking, and I had told them like I had gone on a date that weekend, and they were like, "What? You're not allowed to date?" Like funny. So they were kind of griping at me, and Dave walked in, and he was like, why are you yelling at her? Like, what is going?" Like funny. They weren't being mean, they were just like, "What? You didn't tell us." So Dave just kind of said like, "You need to tell me first because I need to approve of these people." And he was just like the coolest guy. And he actually got me, I have a cherry tattoo on the back of my neck, and I went to his tattoo guy and got that. So he was great. What a down to earth, like he's very quiet too though. So you have to really be in that inner circle, which of course I was. And I remember sitting, we had a charter flight. I forget where we were coming from. And of course, charter flight, there was nobody else on it but us, the wrestlers. And I just sat in first class, and we would talk the whole time and just about any and everything, I love that he pitched an idea to work with us because he had a good time working with Deuce, because Deuce had that singles match with them. And I don't know if you remember, it was on SmackDown. And we had done that. Me and Deuce and I had done this before where like Deuce would like bump some guy, and then I'd give him a kiss and like, "Oh, my man," and then Batista bumped him around and would like blew me a kiss. And then I was like enamored, and I was like, "Oh my God." And they're like yelling at me for like liking that Batista blew me a kiss. And ended the match where like Deuce obviously loses, and then Batista's like, call me, and I'm just like, I'm just like shy, and that would sparked the next match with like him and Flair and the whole backstage segment. So when we did that, Batista told me in our we had a tour, Singapore, Bangkok, Australia, and I ran into him. I think he was going into the spa and I was coming out of the gym and we were chatting, and he said that he was calling Vince overseas to book a pitch an idea to work for Flair to work with the boys and I, which was great. You have somebody like that on your side. And he was our top guy. Him and Flair were the top guy at the time. So what a good dude, like down to earth, very quiet, very private, but just is like a heart of gold, truly a heart of gold. And I'm just so happy to see him being so successful in Hollywood. And he's so good at those movies and, being in the Marvel movies and stuff. It's Marvel, right? Not like
Yeah, it
a
is. Yeah.
oh my God, I'm just like watching. I'm like, he's so good. But I'm just so happy for his success. Yeah, he's just a down to earth good dude.
And you bring up Flair. I heard that he was kind of taking a liking to you as well. Did you happen to see his new documentary yet?
I actually did. I watched it Monday. Yeah, when it came out. A lot of the stuff I already knew. Yeah, what a good dude too. He did. He took a liking to me, but he takes a liking to all the women. So let's be honest. But what a nice guy. I'll tell a story. So Flair is really Flair. So we were on the same tour. It was Singapore, Bangkok, Australia. So we were in Japan's airport waiting to continue on to Australia. So I went they were in the bar, this little airport bar. And, I was just saying my hellos or whatever. And Rick was, get down. And he was trying to get me to drink all these sakis. Now, I don't drink on a plane. I never, even if I'm by myself or then or now or whatever, it hits me a lot quicker, which I think it probably does everybody, but I get sick. So I don't tend to. So he kept, he was Flair at the bar, like with the sakis and this, that, and that. And Dave came up and was like, he totally saved me from the situation. I tried to bow out. So I hung out for a little bit, but I'm like, I can't continue to do this. I cannot pull. My stomach does not. I mean, I'm a girl, at a certain amount of weight, and here's Flair and his liver's used to this kind of lifestyle. So Dave helped me bow out really gracefully. So it was, yeah, he was Flair.
Now, we don't get Peacock here in Canada. How was the documentary as far as entertainment value?
Oh, well done. Really, really, really well done. So it's just sad because you can tell he has a hard time with his position in the wrestling industry, which I think that's why he took another match. And I just hate that for him because I was there. I worked the Mania that was his WrestleMania retirement match with Shawn, and it was epic and it was incredible and it was a perfect retirement. And I get it, because how do you live that lifestyle and how do you be that good for so long and be such a legend to now say you can't do it anymore? You shouldn't be doing it anymore. So it cuts both ways. It's like you want him to be healthy and you want him to be okay. But you also feel in your heart for him because he just wants to wrestle. This is his life. This is his blood. This is his soul, So it was really, really well done. Really well done. So it's good.
And how was your experience at that WrestleMania since we brought it up?
It was great. It's incredible to walk out in front of a crowd like that. That was my second Mania. You don't see everybody. It's like literally everybody does look like, I think they said it on Flair's thing, or someone said it recently, where they look like ants. Everybody looks like ants because there's so many people. But oh my gosh, it was breathtaking to see that many people. So that was a lot of fun. It's insane to see something that big, backstage area, and there was a lot of people. So Manias are a lot of fun. I don't know how the fans do it because it's the ring is so big. It's not like it's a football field and there's so much to watch on the field. The ring is so small, and then you've got these people like so far back. It's like, I don't know how you were really a diehard fan to be up in those big nosebleed sections. So Um, but it's a vibe. You get into it and you're there, and it's just incredible. Like, that feeling is our Super Bowl. So I'll never forget that feeling rolling out in front of WrestleMania fans at the two WrestleManias I was at. So it was great.
It seems like they kind of gave up on the Deuce and Domino thing before it had run its full course. But how did you like being a singles wrestler compared to being with Deuce and Domino? Because you were getting over pretty well by yourself as well.
I mean, I loved it. I Not that I don't regret anything at all. I just was so true to Cherry and the gimmick and thing that the boys and I could offer. I was happy, and I was happy with the results, and kind of people really loved what we were doing, but I wanted to do more with Deuce and Domino before I did split off. I was happy with my position. I was still being used, and people liked me. And I'll never forget this. Elijah Burke had pulled me aside when we were doing that diva competition, and I had made it to the second person. And he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Where's your head at? Like, what are you thinking?" And I said, "Listen, Elijah," I said, "there's two things. It's a win-win for me." I said, "Either the voting is fake, and the office wants me to be number two, or the fans are really voting me into number two." I said, "It's a win-win for me." We knew it was all about Michelle. She was the girl of our show. I was thrilled that I did that well and enjoyed it. And the girls were so great to me. But I also, in the same aspect, felt like Deuce Domino and myself had so much more to offer as a group before they split us up. So that cut both ways, but I'm very blessed that they did want to continue on with me, and wish it had been more, but I don't regret a thing.
And as we wind it down here, I know that you're still good friends to this day with Natalia, and you had, I believe, her first match in WWE. Could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with her? And I understand you had like a standing ovation after your first match, which is very rare.
Yes, she's my best friend. She's an incredible human being. She's selfless, in every aspect of that term. She's incredible. She's so talented as a wrestler, as a person. They can literally contact her, and she can do anything. She can wrestle, she can build somebody, she can do PR, she can be promotions, she invests in herself, she can cut a promo, she can do live. Every aspect of wrestling is who she is. And she still practices. She has her own wrestling ring with TJ and at the dungeon, and she gives back to so many people. And she's just a good friend, and we get along so well. And I spent Christmas with her, and she's my best friend, and her family's incredible. And yeah, it's great we always joke about that. I had her first match, and I'm so happy, and we're so happy that it was, and it just solidified our friendship. And Fit wanted something specific because Cherry couldn't just jump around and do moonsaults and all of this stuff. I was very true to my character. So to be able to evolve in such a slower way is kind of what I wanted. And that's how Fit kind of wanted that match. So like, she's kicking me or kicking my butt around the ring. And then finally that switch turns on, and I'm like, no, like, screw you. And then I start fighting back, and it's not too much. It's just perfect. And we did. I mean, they got the facials out of me, and Fit had always told me that Vince loved my facials, which I'm so proud of. And they needed that. They needed to see that switch. I was crying. I didn't want to be beat up. And, Michelle helped me. What am I supposed to do? And then I just got enough of it. So, you know, they wanted a certain emotion. Thankfully, we gave it to them, and we came back and standing ovation in Gorilla, which was incredible. And then Fit hugged us, and it was great. It was so, and I'm so happy that I could be there for her, and I was happy she could be there for me. So, and it's built a lifelong friendship.
And she is a very nice person. I knew her as well back when we trained together in Calgary. And here's my dog here to say hi to you before you have to go.
What's your dog's name?
Piper, after Roddy Piper.
Oh, that's perfect. Hi, Piper. outfit.
She's tired because it's very cold here in the
Oh,
cold,
yeah,
like.
Florida. I was enjoying the colder weather, so I'm bummed.
Now, I know you have Cameo. Where else can the fans follow you?
I'm on Cameo. I'm on Celebrity VM. I'm on Twitter as former Diva Cherry, FMR Diva Cherry. I'm on Instagram as DDC Chick. Um, oh my gosh. Yes, that's it. I'm on TikTok, but I don't have a TikTok. I just watch TikTok because they're so clever. But I don't post videos or anything like that. But yeah, so Twitter, Instagram, Cameo, and Celeb VM, which is a newer platform. So I posted all that on my Twitter. I get a lot more followers on my Twitter, but I am on Instagram as well, so you can see a lot more personal photos and photos of me and Natty at Christmas and things like that. And I also sell a lot of my 8x10s because I get a lot of requests for that. So you can contact me for any 8x10s and other, podcasts.
There you go, fans. Well, I really appreciate you checking in with us and talking to us about your career. And I'll let you close it off with whatever you want to tell the fans.
Well, I appreciate everybody for loving what we did. I had a wonderful time. I always made sure I stopped to sign everything that everybody wanted to get signed because I'd been in that position too. So keep watching, keep rooting for the Royal Rumble. Hopefully I'll be able to make it there one day. But again, I love hearing from you guys. So please, please contact me by Twitter, former Diva Cherry, Instagram, DDC Chick, and also on Cameo, you can get your personalized video. Ask me any questions. I know a lot of people like to see what my predictions are, as well as sharing all your personal information and ask me personal advice on Cameo or Celeb VM. But thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it.